Yeah, what's happening, PWT listeners, Pro Wrestle Times listeners, all across the universe and the galaxy and the globe. I am here with my pal, of course. I am the infallible Phil Marks, and I'm here with Paul Nolan, at Paul Nolan Sound, my good buddy from the UK. He's been a listener since day one. You guys may remember back in the day we did a Paul Nolan Reports where he was live at All In Wembley, and he wrote us like fucking 10,000 words on Wembley compared to WrestleMania. And of course, you know your boy Phil likes to bring on his musically inclined friends as well, and this is another one of them, which we'll talk about. But first, let me just plug some things at Pro Wrestle Clips on YouTube. Guys, we're almost at 2,000 subs. The goal is 2,000 subs by April Fools. We've been growing so fast. Every video we're dropping, it's like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So thank you guys so much. Even the podcast is hitting like 500, 1,000 for like the long form stuff. So just so appreciative. Shout out the PWT listeners, the top pod listeners, and yeah, I don't know what else to plug, man. Check it. I'm completely redoing the YouTube memberships and Patreon, so don't worry about that shit. And check out the live shows, Pro PWT live shows. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuning into those too. You know, I think we had like over 40 people last time live hanging out with us, and that was so cool, man. I thought 2 people would ever listen to this podcast, and I thought maybe 1 person might show up for the live show, and it's just greatly exceeded every expectation that we've ever had. But folks, let's talk some wrestling. I'm here with my pal Paul Nolan. A round of applause for Paul Nolan, ladies and gentlemen. And he is all the way in the UK, about to be Argentina bound. And we're looping it. Sorry, you get a double. You get a double there. So, Paul, man, what's up, man? Tell us about yourself. Let the folks know what you do and why you love wrestling.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a DJ, and one of the things that I love to talk about is how DJs and wrestlers are very similar in a lot of ways, and those worlds are actually quite strangely similar in how they work. But yeah, I've been a wrestling fan since childhood. Like I'm about to celebrate my 44th birthday at the end of the month.
God
so
damn. Congrats, man. Congrats.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. And the first like big match I ever saw was Hogan versus Warrior at WrestleMania 6. That was the match that got me into wrestling.
I just rewatched that one the other week. I was doing Hogan's catalog there with some family, and it was fucking, yeah, dude, it's just phenomenal.
It's a great spectacle of a match, and like the dome and everything. Like it's incredible. It's an incredible match. And yeah, so I've been like one of those guys who kind of was into that whole Hogan era through school and stuff, because it was quite big here in like the back of the 80s, and then it kind of died off a little bit in the 90s, and then late 90s Attitude Era, of course, that was absolutely massive, like of course, and then dropped off through like Ruthless Aggression, and then actually, like, this is where I pin my colors to the mast. It was actually Mr. Phillip Brooks who got me back into wrestling in 2012.
CM Punk, bro. He's one of those guys that helped get me back into wrestling more. I always kept my ear to it, but what it was Hairline started sending me like Emma versus Paige and like Bo Dallas versus Neville on NXT. And that's what kind of made me go, okay, I'll put on a full episode of Raw. And then boom, it was like Bryan Punk. That was the Wyatt's Shield. That shit all kind of got me back into it. But like heavier than I always kind of kept my ear to it, as I'm sure you did too. But so you DJ, man. What kind of music do you make?
So yeah, I know, but they don't
know.
Well, I'm across the board. So I'm a house and techno producer and DJ.
Shit.
I've been DJing since the good shit since what. God, 98. I've been involved in dance music ever since then, since about the age of 18. So I've been very lucky to make a life out of it and fly all over the world and play to people. And, I play mostly like what you would call like progressive house in the tradition of the word. And, my luminaries are people like Sasha, John Digweed, Hernan Cataneo, an incredible Argentinian DJ who's a very close friend of mine. And yeah, I get to make that incredible music and be able to move people with that is a very, very special thing. And, you know, as I was saying before we went on air, Phil, you know, I've been very lucky that I've also worked in like film music and, you know, worked with the likes of Junkie XL, who, you know, is about to unleash the score for Furiosa, the Mad Max prequel.
Wow.
And he's done movies like Mad Max Fury Road. He did the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and
fucking you know what? And fuck the Snyder Cut haters, dude. Snyder gets a lot of flack, but dude, that Snyder Cut was better than, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was better than that Whedon cut for sure.
Yeah.
So like I was saying to you before we went on air, you know, I've lived all over the world. I lived in LA for a couple of years doing production and stuff like that. And, you know, now like I'm kind of, you know, completely location independent. So that's why I'm kind of heading out to South America soon. And so I get to combine my love of that with my love of wrestling. And actually, like, it's something that, to be honest, I actually kept sort of quite private up until recent years. And it was actually Rick Rubin, the producer. He was like a hero of mine, like someone who I really look up to, who like it was him being so out in the open about being an absolutely massive wrestling fan. That sort of like, for want of a better expression, sort of helped me out the wrestling closet. And like, I was just like, yeah, fuck it. And then last year I had the opportunity. Go on, mate.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and like perfect timing, dude. Look at the boom. Like, look how popular WWE is again. It's like mainstream again. So sorry, but what were you saying?
No, I was saying just last year, as you know, I had the opportunity, just the way things fell, that I was in LA at the time and I managed to get a ticket for night 2 of WrestleMania 39.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. So Paul Nolan, you guys might, you know, we put the Paul Nolan reports joke. We've dropped it a bunch of times because Paul reached out to us, emailed us, I believe, or however, where you might even left a comment and been like, I'm going to be there, boots on the ground. I'll write a report. I'll tell you everything, the ins and outs. And you were like, I'm sorry, I might get into way too great a detail, but and I went, no, do it, please. You know, I want as much detail as possible. This is great. And it was very early on in the show, too. And you've been rocking with us the whole time. So I just appreciate you very much. And I don't know, man. I feel like we got the best listeners here at PWT for sure. We just seem to like bring in like the craziest of haters and just like the coolest motherfuckers ever, you know? And you're one of those cool motherfuckers.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So you were at WrestleMania, and the same year you went to All In.
That's right,
So you wrote us a whole report. If you guys at Pro Wrestle Clips, you can go listen. Paul Nolan reports, type it in. We read it. We were laughing, rolling the whole time. It was hilarious. But just quickly, before we start getting into WWE and AEW, your thoughts on like both of those events, like just if you could summate, like obviously you can go listen to the hour-long version of us breaking down the report, but just WrestleMania, and I'm sure you've been to other WWE and AEW events or indie events or whatever, as have I. So just compare the two. Like what's the glaring obvious between like an All In and a WrestleMania?
Couldn't be more different. Couldn't, on every level, felt like it was shocking to me, actually. So with WrestleMania, like the thing that stood out, obviously, you know, apart from the production and the pageantry and the glamour of it, because it is the showcase of the immortals, it is, you know, the show of shows, as they call it. Apart from that, what I got from it was just how friendly the crowd was. And I mean, obviously, it was at SoFi Stadium, incredible stadium, like really well organized, easy to get in, the whole 9 yards. But it was just the range of different people that were there. And it was a real unifying force. Like, you know, in a time when there's so much in the world dividing us, like wrestling is truly one of the few things, like music, that can truly bring people together and help bridge the divide. And I saw every single type of person. There were families, there were, like, say, for example, like, you know, like Latino families, there were, you know, like African-American families, there were people like me, you know, that kind of thing. And generally, I'm just going to give a shout out to my boy, Sir Caesars, who was actually sat in the row in front of me. And we met at that show, and we've been really good friends ever since. And also, just going to give a shout out to my other crew, Joe Carina and Angie, because I actually met, because it's a bit of a thing where I'm from in Liverpool in the UK, there's this joke of like, you can be anywhere in the world and you will bump into somebody else who is from Liverpool. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I was outside and I was I was part of that crowd that, Simon Miller, when he does the ups and downs.
Yeah. Yep.
He did the ups and downs outside the stadium. And all of a sudden I hear a very familiar accent, because obviously my accent is very like different to most English accents. Right. So as soon as I turned around, I went, all right, you're from Liverpool, aren't you? And it was these two guys, like Joe and his wife, Angie. And we met there outside while Simon Miller was doing his thing. And that's who I went to All In with. So that was the big thing I took from WrestleMania, was just the range and the diversity of people and how they were all getting along. There was no sort of angst or anything in the crowd. It was a lovely occasion and it was really positive. AEW, I'll be honest with you, I felt a bit weird in there.
Like, why? Because that this is why. I'm gonna just give you my thoughts on why, and then you're gonna break down the actual why, because you were in the goddamn room. The sense I got from even just the event in general was like, yeah, we do all want to cheer this on because we've all wanted WWE to go back here. And a lot of people in the building were like, yeah, I'm a WWE fan, but I have to go to this like once in a lifetime affair. And so, but I'm going to show up here. And then a lot of the people there are like, I don't know, man. Like, the difference, like what you said, you go to a WWE show, I can point it out too. It's a lot of families, a lot of dudes with girlfriends and shit. And then an AEW show, it's a lot of dudes who, I don't know, they seem crusty and shit. And not everyone, obviously there's families and stuff like that there too. But even I could give my own personal recount. Like, I was at a Dynamite and I sat down like 4 seats from these dudes, and they were like, whoa, and they were like the markiest dudes, and they got so upset that like I was looking, they're spread out across so many seats. I'm not going to talk about their weight or anything, but it was what it was. I'm just speaking objectively here. So
yeah,
I get what you're saying, but to me, I feel like what it was a mix of like mostly people who might not even watch wrestling anymore all the time either, but were like, fuck, I got to go to this. And then wrestling fans and like WWE fans also there, like, I got to go to this. And then the novelty people are there, and then also the super hardcore indie UK marks who like applaud fucking Dave Meltzer and shit. Who that guy sells out like theaters in the UK, not theaters, but he can like fill a huge audience.
I saw that event. I saw that event and cringed.
Yeah, and so like he can do that. So I think it's like that group that would never go fuck the Fed, but they're in the forums and they go to indie shows and shit. So you have a cross of all these people, whereas at WrestleMania, it's a global affair where people from all over the world came to see WWE for one time ever, maybe in their lives or that year or whatever. So that's the difference, the vibe I get. But you were actually in the room, so what were you picking up on?
So, yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, what you've just described there is like the classic kind of meme of the AEW fan, right? It's the like, incel, crusty, cooked neckbeard. Do you know what I mean?
And it's like 4 dudes, and you're like, there's no woman in between anyone here.
Yeah.
Not talking shit, but WWE, there's a kid every 3rd seat. You're like,
there was a lot of them there. There was a lot of them there. And I've got to say, like, I mean, I'm not one for like, sort of breaking things down on these lines, but when you notice that the crowd is overwhelmingly white.
Yeah, dude.
Like it's hard to not look, and I'm not saying that in a negative sense. It's
the
way it was. But then, like, you have to understand the psyche of the UK crowd here, because we have been so chronically underserved with big wrestling events, and obviously now that's changing. I wanted to get to Clash at the Castle, but like Cardiff was quite inconvenient to get to, and I was busy at the time, and it was difficult. But then, like, to be honest, I wasn't even really going to go to All In. And then it got to like 3 days before, and there were tickets still available, and they were cheap. They were like £50. I paid £50 English. So like I paid $175 for my WrestleMania 39 ticket. And that was for technically a restricted view ticket. And it was still fine, because I don't really think there's anything such as a restricted view ticket in the SoFi Stadium. But it was just one of those. It was a, fuck it, I may as well go.
Yeah.
So I went down. Yeah, exactly. Right. And again, it's like, you look at SummerSlam 92 and, the history of that, and we don't know whether we're going to get this again. And, like, if you understand the model of WrestleMania now, it's like, unless the sort of London kind of, local government there pay WWE to have WrestleMania at Wembley, it's probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
They're getting big bucks from the likes of, Perth, which they've just done with Elimination Chamber. So it was like, it was a happening, as Jim Cornette my boy said. You know, he was right when he said that, because it was like a cultural event. It was like, we actually don't care. The funny thing was most of the staff who were working at Wembley on that day thought it was a WWE show. The ones.
Oh my God, that's hilarious, dude.
Like they were clueless as to what it was. They were just like, it's a wrestling show. Oh, it's like, you know, literally like, is The Rock on?
And
yeah, it was that kind of vibe, you know.
Let me ask you, was it so they say it was 82,000 people there, whatever the fuck. Was it that, and you can just be on like, hey, I'm an MMA mark, I'm a fight fan. I've seen Tyson Fury fight in that fucking building. I'm sorry, it wasn't 80,000 even, but it was still a huge fucking house that they should be proud of. But
dude,
what do you
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's not what Will Ospreay's tattoo says, I'll tell you that much.
Okay. But, so you didn't see 80,000 fans there.
I didn't see 80,000 there. And what you have to understand is Wembley's the national stadium for football. And that's a stadium I've been in quite a few times to see my soccer team play, my football team play, Liverpool, because we're a very successful team. So I know what 90,000
That's why you're so. That's why it was so key when you wrote that report. I was like, you guys gotta listen. This motherfucker. He would like I know, you know, he knows what he's talking about here. Like,
and there was just entire like swathes of the whole thing empty behind.
You can see it on TV. I'm not even hating. It was still like what, maybe 70,000 or whatever.
I mean, 70-odd thousand. I mean, my fear going into it was like, not fear, but my concern going into it was, dude, if they only sell like 40,000 tickets.
Well, that brings me to the next point I wanted to bring up to you. That's what they've done this time. So even though you guys are deprived of the big spectacles and the big wrestling shows, just as it is, bar like some untelevised, you know, tours or whatever, AEW's going back, and they've only sold, it's like 40,000 or 45,000. Now, do you think last minute Tony Khan just buys 10,000 tickets like he did last time, or do you think he's okay with doing 40 to 50 or 60 and not hitting that huge number again? Because it's like WrestleMania, and he's like cosplaying, right? Like the first WrestleMania, there's 93,000 fans. And then after, it's like the numbers have been like lower, but it's okay because that one kayfabe record stands the test of time. Do you think that's what it is for Tony? Like, do you think because they did a $5 million gate so far. I think it's 45,000 tickets. That's garnered them like 5 million on the pre-sale or whatever. I think they'll hit around 60K. But do you think that's like look at all these people fall off, or do you think it's like, no, it's just going to be close to around the same actual number that it was last time, but they won't kayfabe it this time? Like, what do you think?
I mean, first of all, I'd say Tony's okay with like running 2,000 people in a 10,000 capacity building, so I don't think he gives a shit on that level. But also, I think what will happen is, I mean, there's two ways to look at it, right? It's only halfway through March. The show's in August. So the stadium's half sold with best part of what, 4.5, 5 months to go.
Yeah.
So they've got time. Yeah. And to be honest, what I think they'll need to do to avoid like a lower number, and again, like, don't discount the fact that there may well be people who just walk up on the day, you know, to fill those gaps. But if you remember back to last year, the build was atrocious. Like, literally, there were people who didn't know what the full card was, like, week off, you know? And if I want to talk about, you know, how WWE was back in the day with the way things work out that way with storylines, when there are stories. And for that, they're going to need to do a much better build.
Right, and they got Ospreay, which they can build up to like him being the guy and getting his world title finally, which I think is what will happen. I think if I had to put money on it, it'll be MJF versus Ospreay or Samoa Joe versus Ospreay, or maybe even Swerve versus Ospreay. I don't know, but Ospreay's winning the belt at Wembley. I think that's pretty apparent.
I think so. I think that's why they signed him, quite frankly.
Yes,
because you know,
I could see that being a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, like, Will was definitely one of the stars of All In, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed. You know, there was actually, I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, you probably could tell by the tone of my report and how I was steadily losing the will to live the longer it went on.
Yes.
but especially Stadium Stampede, which is why it says on my tagline here, like, still wants a refund from Wembley.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but basically, you know, that was one of the highlight moments, you know, and the other was obviously Punk. I thought had the best match.
Me too.
Absolutely fantastic. You know, so there was one or two highlights in what was like, you know, to be honest with you, even by AEW standards, you'd say it was a fairly average quality pay-per-view in terms of like match quality and the creative output, shall we say. But I could definitely see like Will be a big seller for them going forward in that building, and it almost pays for him in that regard if they keep getting $4 or $5 million gates for, you know, stadiums like Wembley.
For him, not the other people, which we're going to talk about as the show goes on, and we're going to talk about AEW and their building up to whatever as the show proceeds. Yeah, so I don't know. I was going to talk to you a bit about themes and WWE and that, but it's whatever. We were talking off pod about that. So the Hall of Fame, okay, WWE Hall of Fame. We have some new. So leading up to the time of recording this pod, this will probably come out tomorrow or something, and it is whatever, the 14th. So we know that Paul Heyman, Bull Nakano, the U.S. Express have all been confirmed for the Hall of Fame. Paul Nolan, how do you feel about those names? And I have a few more to throw at you now, but how do you feel about those names thus far?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic intake this year. I mean, sometimes you can say that the Hall of Fame can be a bit hit or miss in terms of like who's available, you know, what the entrants are. But, you know, as soon as it came out that Paul Heyman was the first entrant, like it was, and it's fitting, right? You know, in Philadelphia, ECW, you know, it couldn't have been a better time for that kind of thing. And obviously, Barry Windham has been overdue being put in the Hall of Fame on his own if he's not in there already, to the best of my knowledge. But what I really love is the fact that it's Mike Rotunda.
Yeah.
I think he might be in on his own. But what I love is that it's Mike Rotunda.
Yeah.
You know, with everything that's happened over the last year with Bray and how that family has just been absolutely put through the worst that you can imagine, you know, this hopefully sort of brings a little bit of positivity to that family, you know. And I watched the video with Triple H, you know, when he told Barry and Mike
Me too.
they were going in, and it was beautiful. It was really emotional. Like,
yeah, it was touching, man. And so what do you think about Bull Nakano being we had the AEW stands, they came out, I tweeted it out immediately. I was like, watch them say name one Bull Nakano match, and that's fucking what they did. But so we nipped that in the ass. But yeah, what do you think about Bull getting into the Hall of Fame?
No, she's a very, very important figure in the world of female wrestling because, you know, she was a badass in a time when those types of badasses were in short supply, you know, because like from what I can recall, you know, she obviously was around at the same time, sort of at a peak around where, like, you know, Medusa and Alundra Blaze were, and it was very difficult at that time. I remember them trying to push women's wrestling at that point, and the problem is that they had Alundra Blaze, Medusa, and not much else. And, you know, Bull Nakano was like, you know, an important factor in that as well, from my sort of limited understanding of it, like through the 80s and in, you know, being in the WWF back in the day. So she's an incredibly important part of, you know, the story of women's wrestling, and arguably one of the figures that, you know, put the path in place for, you know, what the women are doing so immensely now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And then, so what's been announced since then, right, is so I think today or yesterday, whatever, but we're reacting to it here. Thunderbolt Patterson is being put into the Hall of Fame, as well as Muhammad Ali. How do you feel about those?
I mean, with Muhammad Ali, absolutely sensational.
Shoe-in for me.
Writes itself. Absolute right. You know, I mean, it surprised me that he wasn't in there already, quite frankly. You know, and it makes sense as well because obviously he's in the 2K24 game as well. Which is cool, and you know, that's fantastic. I mean, Thunderbolt Patterson, I am going to admit, I'm not familiar with Thunderbolt.
He's old school, man. Yeah,
don't at me if I'm not, you know, as much of a mark as you would like me to be. But you know, I saw that it was, you know, it was actually like reported by a a publication called Anscape, which is obviously sort of more catered towards like, you know, black culture and stuff like that. So obviously he's a hugely important
It is a
figure,
huge
you know,
deal. Yeah. So, and so far this Hall of Fame class, people are like, oh, this is kind of weak, but I'm going, dude, Heyman alone in Philly is crazy.
No,
you know,
dude.
This is a super strong draft class, Hall of Fame class. But so here's the thing, right? There are 2 more names. People are going, oh, there'll be 1 more name. But there's actually 2 more names expected to be, that are rumored to be released. Someone, before the Hall of Fame started getting announced, somebody leaked on like Reddit a list. This is like a month ago, of all the names that were going to be on it, this Hall of Fame. They were right about every single name up until this point. And there's 2 left on the list. So I'll spoil it for you. But Dave Meltzer, who we'll talk about in a bit, also confirmed this one yesterday. Didn't confirm, but he's like, it's expected. But Leah Maivia is expected to be. So she was like, you know, she was a booker. If you watch the Young Rock TV series, obviously it's, you know, dramatized, but she would talent swap with Vince and they would send people to their territory and stuff. And that family's obviously close with the WWE and always have been, the WWF. So they're going to induct her. That's The Rock's grandma, I believe. And then also is Bray Wyatt is supposed to be the headliner. And that's what this list leaked. They got every name right. Thunderbolt Patterson, Muhammad Ali, everything right. And they have these 2 names left. So those names are expected to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think it's very fitting that they have some bloodline representation in there of some sort, because the bloodline's just so hot right now. And I also think it's important that you put Bray in. He is a former world champion, so we can't ever, you know, multiple times. So it's not like it's, oh, why is he going in? And he was so fucking over. Everyone can agree. And it's a damn shame that Vince wasn't out of there way earlier than he was, so we could have truly seen Triple H allow Bray to unleash what he had in mind. Clearly he had a vision for something greater, and before Vince left, just put him back in the funhouse. Yeah, he's gonna go back in the funhouse, or else he's fine. You know, so if I don't know. I'm just happy that they'll induct him. He deserves to be honored, and like you said, everything the family's gone through. You know, him and his dad to be in the same class as well. That would be incredible. So, yeah, your thoughts on Bray Wyatt and Leah Maivia?
Yeah, so obviously with Bray, absolute no-brainer. You know, like him or, you know, dislike his creative output. Me personally, my favorite iteration of Bray was like Swamp Bray. You know, when he first came in. And I felt like the thing with Bray is that what makes it all the more heartbreaking is that it just feels like we never quite got the absolute peak of his creativity.
No.
You know, we didn't quite scale that mountaintop, shall we say. And it felt like, despite the fact that it got off to a little bit of a rough start, you know, before he unfortunately had to take time off before his unfortunate passing, that it was just starting. Like that LA Knight thing was just the start, and it was kind of going to build from there. So,
and that was really, kind of the shit. That was kind of the shits too. But we're like, it wasn't so bad. Like it's okay. Like these guys are over, and it's Bray. So the next thing he's going to do is really, and yeah, it's tremendously sad. You know.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So, you know, obviously very, very fitting. Hopefully that does happen, that the rumors are true and that Reddit list continues to be accurate. Because again, just the optics of both him and his dad going in the same year, absolutely beautiful.
I love it.
And well deserved. And just for how well loved he was. I mean, you couldn't find a single person backstage in the industry that would say even the nearest negative word about him, and that's very, very rare in the wrestling business. It has to be said.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's interesting that being said too about him and Luke Harper. You know, they were both Brody Lee, like they were both just 2 guys who no one fucking hated. You know, no one everyone just said they moved them or touched them in some sort of way, or you know, was infectious in some sort of way.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Shout out that Hall of Fame draft class. I think that's we're gonna round of applause for that draft class. I like it. So moving along, we talked a moment ago about Dave Meltzer, so it's time for everybody's favorite segment, and it's called Dave Meltzer, Dumb Moment of the Week. So, my friend Paul Nolan, I'm going to share with you here. Let me make sure my DMs are closed. We don't need to dox anyone like last show. No, just kidding. I think we doxed the link to get into the show or something, but that was
Whoops.
it. Yeah, no biggie. So here, this is per at WW. We have a quick one this week, guys, because there's always more than one per week. And Dave, it's hard to keep up with his stupidity. So at WWF Counselor, or the ANW Freakazoid Nightmare, says Dave pulling shit out of his ass again. And at Dave Meltzer WON says, okay, so actually let me give some backstory. Sorry. So what Dave is doing is he's responding to someone who told him to please learn to read a balance sheet and accurately describe the difference between revenue and profit before entering into a financial debate with a financial analyst. Come on, bro, bleeding fucking cash. And this person said that to Dave because Dave was talking about how actually WWE loses more money and has lost more money than AEW, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is it's just, well, here's what Dave Meltzer had to respond to that. He says, better warn. So this is Dave saying that, better warn WWE to jump off the Peacock train. Tell Nick they lose more every 2 days than AEW loses in an entire year. Better also tell Fox and Dwayne to drop their football leagues. DJ's league lost about his. How cringe is it that he calls him DJ and Dwayne? Like, Dave, go fuck yourself, dude. For real, dude. Like, go fuck yourself, man. Like, call him Rock. You don't know him. Fucking Mark. He thinks he's in, dude. Like, fuck you. DJ's league lost about as much in 13 weeks as AEW in 5 years. Okay, so what Dave is doing here is he's fucking comparing the XFL, which is no longer in business. It merged with the UFL, which is all the hype now in spring football. And in 13 weeks as AEW did in 5 years. Okay, but that's like a fucking football league that has nothing to do with AEW or pro wrestling. So right there, I got to give him a fucking dummy. Yeah. And then after that, let's get into this. WWE loses more every 2 days than AEW loses in an entire year. Yeah, but Dave, here's the thing. The amount they lose in 2 days, they make back from a fucking CW deal in 1 week. They make back in fucking merch. Like, we're talking, you can just look at AEW by all economists, all the Brandon Thurston, all these guys who break down the numbers. They all agree that AEW is losing money. Anybody who's objective, who've ever had money, I think can understand that AEW is losing money. In fact, if you've ever had money or spent money, I think you understand that AEW is losing money. And then you have this motherfucker saying this when it's like, Dave, you don't get what this guy's telling you is, well, first off, they're called Venturian Capital Services. So I don't know if I got to look them up, but they're, you know what I mean? Like, these guys like are a service with a blue check that fucking, you know what I mean? Like, help people with money. There are many people like, Dave, come on. And so this guy knows better than everyone. Apparently Dave knows better than everyone. He's infallible. You cannot, you know, what does Mike Tyson say? He's impregnable. I'm impregnable. You can't fucking say shit to Dave. You can't get through to him. You can't penetrate. He knows better. He knows better than Venturian Capital Services about money. He knows better than fucking Gunther about selling. He knows better than, you know, fucking, you know, The Rock about wrestling or making movies or doing football leagues. It's so fucking stupid. And I don't know, tell WWE to jump off the Peacock train. Why? He thinks they're losing money. Like, WWE, you can look because it's all public. They're making money hand over fist right now in every measurable fucking metric. Whereas AEW is losing money overall in a year, Dave. So your goddamn argument doesn't make any fucking sense. I didn't even want to spend this long talking about you this week, but I had to fucking do it, bro, because I can't help it, because you're so funny. And yeah, Meltzer's trending right now. Paul Nolan, give me your thoughts on this stupid shit, and then we're gonna click on Meltzer trending and see why he's trending.
Don't fucking start me on this guy. Seriously, like this man, like is the perfect cure for insomnia. Seriously, like he is absolutely unlistenable on any level. I had to laugh because like one of my big pet things that I really get pissed about is wrestling journalism,
dude,
because it's almost like an oxymoron. It's like the two words should never go together. These people are not fucking journalists. I'm sorry, they're not. They're dweebs with Twitter handles.
Yeah.
And they are leeching a living off this business. And it shows. And it shows because he's completely out of touch. His little friend, Mr. Alvarez, who, I have some respect for because he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and that is very difficult to do. As
absolutely, yeah.
Practitioner myself, that's a very difficult thing to do. So I'm sure he would probably fold me like a pretzel if I ever said anything really nasty about him. But
sure.
The whole thing is just laughable because they are literally just making it up as they go along, and they have their inbuilt biases. They're in their own little echo chambers and they can't even see it. And the thing that's been making me laugh recently is Brian Alvarez coming out with all this stuff about AEW that yourself and everyone with half a brain cell has been saying for the last 3 years.
Oh my God, dude. That's what drives me crazy. It's like, and same with Conrad Thompson. Don't
even start me on Conrad.
I want to because everyone's like, oh dude, fucking don't get me started on Conrad. Everyone said that, and I didn't get it at first, but now I'm starting to get it. Like, I'm like, oh dude, sometimes I listen to 83 Weeks all the time, and so
I'm a Bischoff guy. I love Eric.
I'm a Bischoff guy, man. And so Conrad, though, like Bischoff just says, yeah, well, that like, okay, Conrad lays out the scenario, they're talking about ECW, and Bischoff's like, that's why AEW's fucking up, because they're trying to be WCW and they should be trying to be ECW, right? And then Conrad's like, he spent like 20 minutes like, I never thought of it that way before. It just dawned on me, like, and then he came back to it after they already got off it, and he's like, wow, dropping nuggets, Eric. And it's like, Conrad, this is what everyone's been saying for fucking years. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, as soon as he started opening his fucking mouth about WWE is when we all started saying this. Like, no, you have the money to do what ECW wasn't able to do because they didn't have the fucking money to do it. You know what I mean? Like, and Paul Heyman,
Conrad Thompson, right, is the Derek Zoolander of wrestling. I'm sorry, he really is. It's like, remember that line in Zoolander where the girlfriend turns around to him and says, I was bulimic, and he goes, what? You can read minds? It's like, what, the files are in the computer? It really is. It's like the level of like intellectual disconnect on Conrad. And it's like, I think it's really amusing because it's a bit like watching 83 Weeks sometimes is like watching, like a mouse play with a cat play with a mouse.
Yeah.
And it's like the cat's Bischoff and the mouse is Conrad, and it's just Bischoff just playing with him just for his amusement. Because like, I love the fact that Bischoff is still like a mild troll, and I love the disdain that he has for Dave. Like, and it's so appropriate. Like,
it is, because look at the shit Dave's written about him. Look at the shit Dave's written about him over the years, man, for decades. And shout out Conrad. Like, I'm not even hating. It's just so funny. Like, I get why it would irk people. But to me, it triggers me, but that's what good shows do, I guess. So I don't know. Let's just quickly click Meltzer's trending. So if we can just, okay. So Meltzer said, should we go to latest? Maybe. Yeah. Just to see, there have been reports at a backstage incident. Okay. No, there haven't been. No, Dave. No, Dave. Yes. It's so good. We pulled this up. Hey, no. But listen, though. Listen, Booker T. Booker T joked on his podcast. So watch, over 2 hours ago. Okay, Booker T jokes on his podcast that there's an incident between him and Punk. And then Meltzer comes out after and goes, there have been reports of a backstage incident involving CM Punk. Oh, really, dude?
As Dave verified that's not a Raw segment from 2015.
Yeah, dude. Did he do that first? Hey, there have been reports. Oh, you mean Booker T talked about it on his fucking podcast? You fucking idiot. That came out 2 hours ago. Oh my good gracious!
And they were so like effacing towards each other, Punk and Booker, when when Punk first went back. Like he spoke on it. Like I heard both of them speak about it and said they shook hands. It was good. You know, it was maybe a little frosty for 30 seconds, and then it was fine.
Look at the Adam Goldberg 28. I'm sure Dave is going to pick up on this and blow it way out of proportion. But here, let's listen to Book. I like this show too. But the whole thing is like here's the thing, dude, is that Booker T doesn't back down and CM Punk doesn't back down. And when you have people like that, and if you've ever played a fucking sport, man, this shit happens sometimes. Like, okay, did you think Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen didn't bump chests or whatever? Like it happened, man. This is what I don't know, and Punk's back there all the time. You got to think Booker has great influence. Oh, are they problematic? I don't know. Both of these guys over the years have had stories of them getting in physical confrontations with other wrestlers. So let's hear what Booker has to say. But with that being said, like people are going to try and blow this out of proportions like it's some Young Buck shit. I already know.
But I almost had like a little run-in with CM Punk. You know what I mean? The internet might want to pick that up. Me and CM Punk almost got into it at NXT this week. Yeah, so.
Oh, okay, well, you'll tell me more later?
We'll talk about it later. I don't want to put it out there because they're going to pick it up and, run with it. But, yeah, I'll talk to you about that off there.
Okay, we'll talk later.
I don't know. I almost think he could just...
nothing.
I think he could...
means nothing.
I honestly think he could just be making it up to, like, stir the internet up and just... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Him and Book seem like the type that would make that up together. Like, wouldn't that be funny if we told everyone so.
Yeah, because obviously now, because Punk's under WWE contract again, we can't have the, hey, Brian Alvarez, shut the fuck up about me challenge day one tweets anymore. Do you know what I mean? Or Instagram stories. So I think they've got to find another way to fuck with them, to be honest. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I mean, I just find that whole thing odd in that why would Booker say, well, I don't want to put that out there while you're recording a live podcast and then not go into any detail about what actually happened. So that means that maybe it's a work. Maybe they're just, screwing with people, like whatever. I don't know. I just don't buy it, I'm afraid.
I just don't. Yeah, I think they're probably just screwing with people. Hold on a minute. 14 minutes ago. Okay, so is this real? I just want to confirm it's real. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do this now. We're pulling a fucking cornet. Before we get into more AEW news, we have the ratings here.
Ooh.
So I want to share with you people. This is for last night, I guess, with the or you know what? We'll do that after when we talk about the Big Business show. About the Big Business show, because wow, I was waiting for these to come out and I'm glad they did. So Paul Nolan, man, it's awesome to have you here, dude. So in other news, we got Miro and Lana divorced and they hopefully will work together in the future. I guess he moved back to Bulgaria. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, obviously the whole joke with Miro is that he's like got the cushiest job in the entirety of wrestling because he kind of turns up, does a little bit for a bit, then either gets injured or refuses to do what Tony wants him to do and then just disappears again on full pay. So,
yeah, the dream job.
The dream job, right? The dream job. And honestly, like, I don't blame anyone apart from Adam Copeland for going to AEW because it's like,
are you mad at him? I don't care. I don't care that he went there.
I just think it's a bit disappointed, to be honest. It's like because he was one of my guys, and like I really enjoyed his WWE run, and like the Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania was like, it was a good spectacle, like And he's always someone I've really admired and really looked up to, and it's kind of sad just to see where he's at now, you know?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But back to Miro. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously they've probably got their reasons. Obviously, it's a bit shocking. The Bobby Lashley memes are excellent online. Should you take some time to look at them? But yeah, I mean, hopefully this brings them peace as somebody who has had a marriage end before. I know how difficult it is. So, you know, best of luck to both of them, and hopefully they find healing and growth in it, and they kind of, you know, become better people off the back of it, because I know I did.
Good, man. I didn't actually know that. How are they with the laws in UK? You gotta give her half your shit, or what's going?
Well, no, I mean, it was very amicable. Like it was no, it's cool. It's very amicable. I mean, you kind of got to wait a couple of years unless you want to, like, you know, do it the expensive way. So yeah, they're definitely not as bad as the California divorce laws, shall we say.
Yeah, bro, I was totally trolling too. You didn't even have to fucking even touch on that. So Matt Hardy, speaking of contracts and shit splitting up, Matt Hardy contract is not being renewed. Other talent is being let go as well. Sammy Guevara was suspended, and a rumor came out. There were tweets about it that he may be getting released as well, which I'm not biting on that yet, but yeah, just your thoughts on AEW seemingly kind of letting some of these contracts go, and maybe we'll talk about what they're signing people for in a bit. But
I just find it really funny if they did a round of talent cuts and they blamed it on budget cuts after.
That's what they're doing, as far as I know. There's Matt Hardy's going. I bet you Jeff will just get out of his contract. Here's what people don't realize: Regal. They're like, oh, it's a special exception with Regal. Nah, I really think anybody could really talk their way out of a deal with Tony. I think he's genuinely like a good dude. I don't think he's a bad guy by any means. He's just way too much of a mark, you know. But yeah, so what do you think though? Matt Hardy, he did a lot of the nut kissing for Tony Khan, and then now his contract ain't being renewed, and everyone's like, well, he better just go to the WWE and get inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2025.
Well,
you know?
he's another one who's got a big divorce pending as well as our Matt, isn't he? So
people try to tell me that's a work. People get mad at me and go, "It's a work, you idiot." I'm like, come on, man. I don't think that's a work. They're talking about like really weird shit, you know. CTE.
Well, it's like so basically what, like, one party wants to get divorced, and like the reason for refusing the divorce, you're going to put kayfabe on the form or something. Like, come on. Like ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I'd be honest, like, unless it was under some sort of like Legends contract, like I can't see
that's Matt what they'll do.
Yeah, exactly, because I can't
go
see
to the Hall of Fame together.
Yeah, I can't see them playing an in-ring role, man. I mean, I think like retirement is looming. I mean, especially with what happened to Jeff the other week. The one that I'm really interested in is Sammy, because I didn't know about this. And
well, he was suspended. People suspect, they say it was because of the Jeff Hardy concussion. People suspect that it could be because Sasha came in, and now
I heard about that over what
Sasha's
about it, right?
Right, and so now the rumors are that Sasha, like, he may be getting released entirely. Which, if that happens, man. One of their four pillars, right? yeah, dude.
Well, you know what the good thing about, like, if that pillar gets removed, they can put Sheldon in there as their fourth pillar, because that's what's holding them up. Right, you know. So it's so funny, man. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Because like on the face of it, what a talented guy, but my God, can that guy not get out of his own way? You know,
not good in any position they put him.
It's just like, yeah, I mean,
and he's a cocky asshole. Yeah, he's getting paid too much money for where he's at, his level wise, and so Tony's like, bro, no, you're great, you're the future. I'm telling you, you're gonna be the best. You're gonna be the 6:30 splash theme park ride one day off the ladder, and just don't hurt anyone. He hurt so many people, bro. Like,
oh, dude, it's insane. Like, I mean,
hey, Tony, all this money you're paying people. Build a fucking PC. Build a fucking I love pro wrestling. Build an institute. What's more? What helps mixed martial arts more? The UFC. Oh, they're so money hungry. Blah blah blah. Does it help MMA more? Does it help MMA more when UFC builds performance institutes all over the world to help cultivate talent? And even if they don't make it in the UFC, they can go to these other organizations. And so people shit on the performance center, but why does the NFL have fucking performance institutes and stuff? Why? Because it's a real, Tony, you love wrestling so much. Sports-based wrestling. Rankings. Give us
could you imagine Sammy?
Invest in wrestling. Then you're not investing in wrestling.
Yeah,
you're investing in
exactly,
your own Mark Fantasy 2K
Absolutely.
universe mode, which is fine.
Totally
but
agree.
yeah,
Totally agree. But imagine
Yeah.
Sammy, like if somebody like Shawn Michaels got hold of him.
Oh my God. Well, that's what I
You know
said
what I
about
mean?
Brian Pillman Jr. And it's like, you guys
Look
don't
at him
get it,
now.
dude. His
Look at him
character
now.
work, once they lock in his character work, all of the in-ring shit's gonna come after, because he's got a bit of a foundation, you know, and you see it in there. He's not like the best wrestler ever, but he's fucking great at his character.
Amazing.
And
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, there's the very quick side point on Shawn Michaels. He's starting to get a lot of love for his NXT work, and I can see it because the storylines are interesting. I mean, look what's happening now with, like, you know, Trick Williams and that whole like love story thing that's kicking off.
Oh my God.
Like, Shawn is a legitimately great developer of talent and a good booker as well.
Oh yeah.
And he's made NXT his own thing. And what I love about it, it's kind of like a hybrid of all the things that made Shawn great. You know, that slightly cheesy, slightly schlocky stuff, like with crazy storylines, but like really good in rings stuff as well. Like, I've been really impressed when I've seen NXT recently. So I just wanted to give Shawn a shout out because it's great that he's starting to get real props for it now, because I think he's been a bit of an unsung hero in recent years myself.
Fuck yeah. That's for HBK. What's happening, Pro Wrestle Times listeners? Phil Marks here, and I just had to interrupt myself babbling for 1 second to talk about Pro Wrestle Times' affiliate partnership with Fanatics and WWE Shop. That's right, you can get your favorite WWE superstar merch, tees, caps, hoodies. We're on the road to WrestleMania, folks. There's so much at WWE Shop, and if you use our affiliate link below, not only will you be directly supporting your favorite WWE superstar, but you'll be supporting PWT as well, and you'll be supporting your drip. Check your reflection, it'll look like perfection. And did I forget to mention, you'll grab all the attention by clicking PWT's official WWE Shop affiliate link below and get you some digs now. Let's get back to the show. All right. So, man, Dynamite. We talked a lot about AEW. And so let's review a bit of AEW. Quite a bit. We want to talk about big business. It just happened last night. But first, I just wanted to start by saying the last episode of Dynamite last week, I put it over a lot, man. The new aesthetic is good. I think them using the white ropes and the LED boards and shit so that when people are flipping channels, they might think it's WWE, just like the people who were working at All In. So that's a good move marketing wise or whatever. The aesthetic was good. People are going to trip out at me. I like the Young Bucks' character. They should have did this with Punk. They would have drawn $1 billion if they did this with Punk. I'm not saying like, oh, it's the greatest thing, but this is what they should have been leaning into, doing the victory lap around the ring, and they should have worked this same exact angle with Punk. I like that they brought Okada in and flipped him heel. They're apparently paying Okada $4.5 million. Dave Meltzer said, no, it's not that much. It's actually more like $4 million. Well, the Wembley gate sold 45,000. So
$500,000 between friends.
Yeah, that should have been in the Dave Meltzer fucking dumb moment of the week segment as well. But so the 4 mil, like, you know, the Wembley show this year, fucking the gate, like they sold 45,000 tickets that apparently got them 5. So think about that, guys. You can't tell me they're making money when they're paying the Bucks NBA level contracts, and then Kenny Omega, Jericho, Mox, all these big names. What is Mercedes getting paid? We're going to talk about that in a bit. We have numbers. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But you can't tell me they're making fucking money. They're losing money hand over fist. Their biggest shows can't draw enough money to fucking pay for all these contracts. They just can't. It's irrefutable. People still try and argue this. Can't argue this. But Okada comes in. I like what they're doing. I like that Joe and Swerve, they're both fucking heels kind of, but it's working, whatever. You know, Swerve was invading homes and shit, and now he's just the big baby face like a month later. It's stupid, but so I like what AEW's doing, man. They're focusing on promos and vignettes. So we fast forward to the big business show. People are putting the show over. Actually, the AEW fans seem to be divided, I've seen. A lot of them are saying, I wasn't feeling the Mercedes shit. It felt too WWE. And this big business episode of Dynamite felt too WWE. But a lot of them are saying, dude, it was such an epic show, such an epic episode. I agree. This was yet again another fucking stellar front to back, not stellar, but front to back Dynamite. Now, the main event was dumb, but they did that so they could play the quarter-hour trick with Mercedes so they can go, look, she's a draw. I'll explain that. We'll break that down in a minute. We have the fucking quarter hours here. But also, this was a good Dynamite, but some of the AEW fans are divided because it was very promo heavy and vignette heavy and good backstage segment heavy. And I'm going, holy shit, though, they've made me care about more people than, like, you know what I mean, dude? That's why NXT is so good, because of the stellar character work they're doing. We were just talking about it, like this, the character work, all of it is so good. In AEW, bro, the matches were shorter this week. The one that lost everyone was the fucking Young Bucks match. Their gimmick's cool, whatever. I'm feeling it. Okada's entrance is cool. I'm feeling it. But then they just randomly fight Pac, who came back. Sweet. That's cool. But then he's just with Eddie Kingston and fucking Penta. And it's like, what the fuck is this? So I tweeted it out. I was like, this match is going to start losing people. I think it was losing people because that's where I started kind of just tuning out of the show. The main event was Willow versus Riho, which I actually don't mind Riho. I like Willow. But that match for the main event of this big business show, like, what a shit main event, to be honest. Like, not hating on either of them, but what a shit main event. But they just did it so that Mercedes could do her run-in, so they could do the quarter-hour trick. They had her at the very start, and they had her in at the overrun. So we're going to break that down in a bit. But I like what Dynamite's doing. This last episode of Dynamite was very vignette and promo heavy, and it was that's what they need to take from WWE. Why? Because it makes it feel more sports-based, and it tells me, and even if it's not sports-based, it just tells me everyone's vocation, and I care about them. It made me care about the Wardlow match that happened, which was a great match, even though if you go back months ago, Joe already squashed Wardlow, cut his hair, and fucking made him look like a joke, right? Took his belt, fucking whatever. And then Wardlow had to team up with a bunch of devil goofs to get his shot back at Joe. Why? That was complete ass. Made me forget about that. I feel like they're starting anew. But last week's ratings, I said, oh, it was a good Dynamite after a big pay-per-view where they had a big house for Sting. And it was a pretty good pay-per-view, too long. But the ratings were lower than the fucking go-home show, which were lower than the week before, man. And then this week, we have the ratings for Big Business, which was only up a little bit.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Mercedes, we're going to get into it. We'll break it down. That's the sizzle to the steak, as Hairline would say. But Paul Nolan, it's so good having you here because I want your thoughts on just basically what you saw. So as you explained, I was off podcast, you don't get Dynamite in the UK until Friday it airs, and so but you watched everything on their YouTube, which is great. So just from what you saw, I want your thoughts on all of that. But basically, I just want to say, AEW, keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna get people like me putting it over more. And those fucking weirdo marks who just like move porn are going to hate on it. Let them hate on it because they can get move porn anywhere, and give them their move porn on the pay-per-views. That's what WWE does. It's how you fucking you know what I'm saying? So, and they're trying to get a streaming deal and all this. So I'm telling you, the ratings are dipping a little bit now because AEW has such bad faith, but stick with it like TNA, and TNA showed you can turn it around a bit. So, but overall, though, sorry, before I hand it off to Paul Nolan, Mercedes's promo and shit, I liked it. Her music, where they're chanting CEO, smart. It got over immediately. They drew a good house. It was 8,000 people, whatever. SmackDown's doing fucking 13,000. This, they wiped their ass with 10,000 people. So 8,000's really one time. What's next week gonna do? Another 2 or 3. Like, hopefully the house gets bigger, but Mercedes, though, I liked her promo as well. I liked her debut. Her little run out at the end was whatever. But the crowd was really into it. It came off well on TV, and I just felt like the production was really on point because AEW looks really good when they aren't shooting around an empty building, because it's so noticeable when they're shooting around an empty building. When they actually have a house, it fucking looks good. Their production can be on point. So I just hope next week they can continue this good momentum, even though I don't know, man. I guess the AEW fans are divided. But your thoughts on everything you saw from Big Business, and then let's get into the numbers.
Yeah, so I'm going to start this with a bit of a confession that, I'll be honest, after going to All In last year, it kind of really put me off AEW. So I hadn't actually like solidly watched AEW in a while. So actually watching it from the perspective of obviously talking to yourself, Phil, you know, I was actually like really impressed with the production. Like the production has improved significantly. And I hate to say it, it does look a little more WWE.
Yeah, but
like
it's good, but in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, because it actually like it frames everything in a better way. And I just wonder, everything you've just said there around the fact that you're starting to care a little bit more, do you think that this is the influence of Jennifer Pepperman already?
I think it is the influence of her and Sasha, Mercedes. I think Mercedes came in there and went, Tony, I'm going to do this, but we're going to make a change. Like, we have to really make a fucking impact here, and Pepperman will help do that. And maybe it is. They also brought in, like, if you think about it, like a handful of months ago, they brought in some like old WWE producer guys or whatever. And it takes you a few months to kind of see the effects of these people who come in, you know, as a creative or whatever. I would say we're starting to see it all sort of come together, and Tony Khan's made it clear, and he admitted it. They're a challenger brand, and everyone goes, I don't give a fuck about TV numbers. But Tony Khan does, or he wouldn't be in the fucking TV business. He would just have bought PWG and ran shows in a gym and not put it on TV if he didn't care. He cares. So I think we're starting to slowly see that all come together. And I think for sure she had some influence, especially over Sasha shit. She probably wrote Sasha shit. I will be critical of one thing, though. Tony Khan books every woman's return/debut the same way. It's woman has a match with woman, woman wins, woman gets attacked by two women, woman runs down and saves woman, and then they get booked in a tag match, and that's their debut or return. Thunder Rosa, Abaddon, Mone, I could go down the fucking list. Athena debuted that way. Paige, Saraya debuted that way. I could go down the fucking list. So it's just the same booking bullshit, but Mone's a big star, clearly, as far as like their presentation and what they see in her, da-da-da-da. But sorry, you continue with your thoughts.
Yeah, so I obviously watched everything that I could watch. I watched the Mercedes Mone promo this morning and the whole thing, and, you know, it was okay. Like, I'll be honest, it didn't rock my world. I mean, if one of the big criticisms of Punk's first promo back was that it was a bit safe, right? And he was kind of just, and I loved it actually, because Punk's promo, there was a lot of layers to it actually, and it was unfolding as the weeks went on, and you realized afterwards just how clever it was. With this, it just felt like let's just get through this. I'm just gonna say the standard stuff, because again, I don't think it's any secret that actually, like, Mercedes, like, her weak point's always been on the mic. Like, she's never been the best promo. You know, as far as
that's why she brought her writer for sure.
Well, of course, 100%, 100%. But for me, it's like, it's an interesting situation with her because she looked like a big star in the context of Dynamite. But I also feel like she's also somebody who has found her level here. And it's going to be very interesting. And what I really thought was, well, it's interesting that she's already talking about going back to WWE. And
I know.
That was just wild. And then,
but you know it, though. You know it.
Yeah, of course. But also as well, like, you look at, go back to NXT for a second. You look at some of the talent in NXT, you can see why they passed on Mercedes, because they've got that much stuff, you know, that many like, amazing female. Valerie Lareda, I know you're a massive fan of her. You know, you look at what Tiffany's doing on the main roster now, and they're like, Okay,
well, here's the thing. Do you think that Mercedes has like banger matches with all the women on the roster, or do you think that she's like an Edge and we'll just see her like once a month, maybe?
Who is there to have bangers with?
Well,
Like,
that's the thing. I don't
I
Jamie Hayter.
can count them
I
on one
mean,
hand. Like, obviously you've got Brit whenever she turns
but
back up.
can she have a banger with Brit? Brit's not in the fucking ring. That's why when we see Brit, she's not, because she works part-time, but she's not she's not that good enough to be doing that yet in her career.
Exactly. Yeah. So, to be honest,
Thunder Rosa, like, to me, if it's my Fed, dude,
that was
it's
exactly
Thunder
what I was
Rosa
saying.
and fucking my top 4 ladies are Thunder Rosa, Athena, Sasha, Jamie when she comes back, Saraya just for her popularity, just in the mix. Those are like my top 5, 6 girls, but like it seems as though that she's going to go after Julia Hart in the TBS title because Hart and Sky Blue attack Willow, and it's just, look at your face. It's like, what? It's like, exactly. What are we gonna? What is that like? Why is she going to be on TV every single week? Is she going to be that person? Hopefully,
I had the exact same look on my face at the end of the Elite match when Okada was going after Eddie Kingston's bullshit. What is it?
I hate that they shoehorned into these legend Japanese matches so he can just mark out and he comes out with 3 belts, and it's like, so this is the baddest ass guy on your roster. Like, he's got 3 belts, right? So this must be the best guy on your roster, and he does these fucking shitty chops.
Makes no sense to me. It's like, you're going to sign people like Okada and Mercedes Mone, and you're going to have them scrap for mid-card titles.
Dude, what
are you doing?
Exactly.
I'm sorry. No, absolutely not. Like, there needs to be a hot, like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of like hot shotting people towards like, main title challenges.
Yeah.
But like, come on. Like, Mercedes is a level above everyone in terms of like stature and the ability to draw. But the thing is, it takes 2 people to draw and make money. And on the women's side, it's like they can't just rely on Mercedes. Like, they need somebody there to be the B side of that in order to make that be something that's going to fill houses. And I'm not seeing it. The thing that I was thinking all the way through the promo was like,
is Julia Hart that person? Who is it? Julia Hart? Is it?
Absolutely not. Like, what I was thinking all the way through.
I think their goal is eventually, you get Tony and Sasha down the line, or Mercedes, pardon me, I got to get out of that habit, down the line. And then you have down the line eventually, but then you also have Mercedes and Jamie Hayter, I think is who they're going to build up for the big Wembley show. But sorry, what were you going to say?
No, what I was saying all the way through the Mercedes promo. I was just sat there thinking, well, we'll see where we're at in a month when, they're in front of 2,000 people in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, on Collision,
on Collision,
and you're wrestling Abaddon.
What the hell are they doing, giving away Okada's debut in AEW on Collision?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
0 sense to me.
Do you think this is Tony's play at like, look, we have Edge and Sasha Banks as our holy shit. Okay, I'm never not calling Edge. So get that out of your fucking brains, guys. Okay, but I'm an Edge head from way back, but Mercedes Mone, pardon me. Do you think that Tony's play is like, look, there are TNT and TBS champions, and hopefully this will bring the ratings up, and here, Warner, like, look at because the rumors are like they might get moved to True TV because Warner wants to because Warner wants to turn True TV into like a sports and entertainment focused network and stuff, and so everyone, that's what I put out there. Wow. Other people have said it. What do you think, man? Do you think this is Tony's way of like, no, keep us on mainstream TV, keep us on TNT?
Well, if you would let's just say, for example, like, if you're looking at a piano, let's turn the black keys white for a second, right?
Yeah.
Like, if it was the other side, what you're effectively talking about doing is putting the Intercontinental title on Roman Reigns in the hope of getting a new TV deal.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
So
Like,
stupid. It's
why
so
would you
silly.
do that? And obviously we can't even talk about that in WWE because there is no mid-card title. By the way, I am of the opinion that they need a women's intercontinental title in WWE. I actually think that would be a fantastic thing.
Someone convinced me of it. Someone convinced me of it. They were like, dude, you have the China Memorial Battle Royal for the first ever women's intercontinental title, because she held the intercontinental title. That's what you do with all the women at WrestleMania this year. And I think that's a good fucking idea. And also, because I was against it up until that idea. And then after that, just like you have the men's Andre Battle Royal one night, you have the women's China Memorial another night. And fuck it. Like, oh, she did porn. Like, fuck all that. They're letting alcohol, they're letting Wheatley sponsor WrestleMania and shit. So I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
But anyway, in terms of the AEW stuff, like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, you signed supposedly the biggest free agents in wrestling, and in Okada, this absolute legend, and you're paying him $4.5 million a year.
Yeah, we got to talk numbers. We got to talk numbers. We got to talk numbers. So you just said it. They signed Okada, right? He's getting $4 million, $4.5 million, something like that, right? Which is unheard of money. But good for him. I'm never gonna hate anybody for
go and get the bag.
Yeah, go and get the fucking bag. But let's go through. Let's talk, I guess, money. So Mercedes Mone AEW contract is reportedly over $10 million a year.
What?
For 3 to 5 years, with an opt-out option going into the third year. So she can going into the third year, she can opt out of doing the last 2 years. This makes her the highest paid women's wrestler in history by a mile. Some will say Tony overpaid her. Truth be told, she's worth every penny. This was via All Elite Wrestling Tracker, or at Mone Stardom. So this is a Stan account for her / AEW seemingly, or I don't know, they call it a tracker. So maybe they track stuff. I'd have to deep dive into their Twitter, which I'm not going to do. But this could be entirely false. However, I don't know, like over 10 million. I don't know if these people are trolling. But here's the thing with Edge. I know it's like, he has like a 3-year deal as well. When he's like, I'm here for years, he's really there for like 3 years, I think, with like an option or something. That's like how Tony does some of these deals, from what I've heard. And I don't know, I could be getting fed bullshit as well. I'm not a dirt sheet, brother, so I don't, but this is just what people have, told me in the DMs or whatever. Yeah, so I don't know if this is real, but let's say it is real. 10 million. I mean, if Okada's only there for 4 million, whatever. I don't know. Let's say it's half that. Let's say they gave her 5 million a year. So she stays there for 3 years, makes 15 million, goes back to WWE. Is that not worth it? Like, that's it? I'd do the same shit. You know what I mean? I'd go there, fucking take the money, come back, and do the same shit. And Tony will give me time off to go be in fucking Mandalorian or whatever, Star Wars or whatever she's doing, because she's acting and stuff. She goes to all these red carpet events. So her brand's just getting bigger and shit. And I don't know, like, you can't even say, oh, it tarnishes her legacy because she's so young still. Like, she can go another probably 10 years in the tank. So let's go make this type of money and then go have your WrestleMania moment. Say with Okada, apparently he's on like 3 years. It's like, hey, go make fucking 20 million or whatever Tony's willing to give you, and then go have your WrestleMania moment. Triple H will have Okada in 3 years at WrestleMania still, So
you took the words out of my mouth there, Phil, because honestly, it's like, I can see it from WWE's perspective of like, well, you're not a competition.
Yeah, but and we'll give you 2 mil or 1 mil or 500K, but you already got your 20 mil, so just come here after and you're all good,
Yeah, and I mean, I can imagine Triple H turning around to Mercedes and, a few others saying, just don't arrive here to like medically fucked up.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear, dude, is that what if she starts, like, she gets hurt like Punk did her first match or something?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, she ain't been wrestling. I don't know. And I'm not trying to be like she's durable, not durable, but she's had injuries. She's had classic matches. And she's She's wrestled in front of the video boards. She's wrestled in front of the fucking gyms with like. She's someone who I don't know. She's kind of.
I've got to say this.
Yeah,
she's definitely had classic matches, but she's always been surrounded by insane talent.
Yeah,
Charlotte, Becky, you know,
Bailey,
Bailey, Bianca. You know, think about like all the classic matches she's had.
Woo!
This is the first time where it's like, oh, you might actually have to carry these matches for the first time. You might have to be the one calling the spots and, you know, looking after your dance partner, shall we say. And it's like, you know, we all know AEW's work style is questionable at times from a safety perspective, although apparently it's the safest place ever. And
safest place ever. It's Disneyland. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. I love the slight Mickey Mouse-ness in that impression of Tony that you do. It's amazing. So it's so true, right? But it's the first time that she's going to have to be the leader because she's always had strong people around her. And now
I have faith she can step up. I have faith she can step up. I have faith she can step for sure. My buddy Marty McFlyer, shout him out. Sucio Boys podcast, shout those guys out. Two-time Grammy winner, two-time. He is like Sasha's worth every fucking penny of the 10 million and this and that, and he's a big fan of hers. And I say sure, like fucking give her the money. Like fucking I'm down for people to make money. Here's the thing. He says though, he's like, now she'll get more when she goes back to WWE. No. Punk didn't get more. These people aren't getting more. They're taking a bit of a pay cut, but the payoff in the long run is bigger because once they leave the WWE, that's like legacy shit. And if you can make an imprint there, and I don't know, the payoff's way. You make more money in the long run if you're a big star, but you make more money up front if you go chill with Tony. That's what it is.
And also, as well, in terms of longevity, WWE for the people like Punk, for example, like you've got to imagine that could potentially be a job for life for him.
It is. It is
like Legends, not just Legends contract. I'm talking like that guy's probably one of the best commentators in all of pro wrestling.
Commentary, coaching. Look at all the time he's spending in NXT.
Yeah, fighting with Booker T backstage, you can still get.
I'd be too, motherfucker. I'd be too. You see those ladies in NXT lately, dude? My God, what a commentator!
And that's the other thing I love about the whole thing on Twitter is like people are like, sure, Michaels might be a God-fearing man these days, but he sure know how to sign those ladies.
Oh yeah, dude.
So we'll see on Sasha, right? We'll see on Mercedes.
We'll see on Mercedes. Let's talk more numbers with her, though. Okay, let's talk more numbers because we got some shit right here. We have the quarter-hour breakdown for Dynamite. Is this real, though? Is it real, Paul Nolan? I don't know. Before I do it, let's just quickly try and double check and verify. We're not the news, so I don't have to get these shits right. I think it is. There's a lot of people sharing it, so this must be legit. So we're gonna go with it's legit, and I trust it. These are the Nielsen. Yeah, this is the Nielsen chart. The Patreon WrestleNomics. Okay, we got it. Yeah, so this is the legit business right here. This is the big business. Let's go over numbers. I'm gonna share my screen with you, so you can see what's going on here. So March 13, 2024, overrun not included due to Nielsen error. Oh, so they got a Nielsen error in the overrun, but you can expect that it's spiked up, obviously, right? So we start with 1 million people watching The Big Bang Theory, which is a little less than normal. Mercedes comes in. Mercedes
is that the no milliversary over with then? That whole thing, is that over and done with now because of that?
No. The milliversaries never counted because look, the average was 801,000 overall.
Okay. Got it.
Only a slight boost of 30,000 people overall watching this show. Paul Nolan, your initial reaction to only 30,000 extra people on average tuning in for Mercedes Mone and Big Business.
Can believe it. And they've been on a downward trend for some time now. You know, I mean, what was it? It was down under, 700 and something thousand last week. So it is a bump, but it's definitely not as much of a bump as they would have liked. You know, it's not exactly, you know, what's been going on Raw and SmackDown recently with the whole bloodline.
Punk hit like a 1.2 or 1.3 or whatever it was. So there you go. Not even a 1.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the no milliversary continues. So 1 mil tuned in for her. And it's just bad that Tony Khan plays this trick, because now it looks like Mercedes lost you like 100 and however many thousand fucking viewers. So Mercedes Mone live promo, Samoa Joe backstage promo, which is good. Book them back to back. But that just, look at this, a steep hill all the fucking way. Just a slope. You just slide down this bitch. So it's just nuts, man. So so Adam Cole's video, which was good, and then Wardlow and Joe, which was a good match, but they're losing viewers the whole time. Swerve comes out, the Bucks, Okada, and that's what I tweeted out. You're gonna lose too many people with this match if it doesn't wrap up. The shit went way too fucking long, because it went into the next segment, and look how much the Elite and Eddie Kingston are losing fucking viewers. 8:15 to 7:37. And I tweeted it out. You're going to lose people. So then the Edge promo and Christian, which everyone says, oh, that's the best shit on the show. It's the lowest fucking quarter hour besides the shit main event, where Sasha Mercedes came back out in the overrun. So we can't even see what her spike did. And it's not going to even be above 700, because look how many fucking tuned out. 400,000 people dipped before the main event, dude. You guys are fucking up, man. Will Ospreay comes out. He gets a bit of a bump, even though he had the lowest rated segment the week before for his big debut. Deonna Purrazzo, Jay White in that. So who knows why the bump came. The bump comes, it looks like, for Jay White, who everyone loves, who hopefully Tony gives a fucking international title to and gets away from fucking the Acclaimed and all this bullshit they're fucking doing. No one, I'm sorry, but the scissor me, daddy, that shit's falled off. That shit's, no one cares about that. That shit's all done. The choking on the mic gimmick thing they're doing, whatever. It's neither here nor there for me, but it is what it is. So Jay White, they're tuning in for. Darby Allin, I don't know. There was a pretty solid match. Fucking Darby, I guess, is kind of over. He's got the sting rub, I guess, a little bit, brother. But look it. Falls way back off for Gates of Agony and Jericho Hook. Oh, we're just going to take Hook and put him with fucking different people and call the team Dan Hook and Hookhausen and Jericho Hook and
now he's just
fucking Hook VD. Fucking trash, man. So then Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, the Kingdom backstage shit. Okay, it just slumps down. Willow Nightingale, Rio, Mercedes Moné. They had a backstage angle with Jericho and Hook. People tuned out in droves. Mercedes runs out to under 700,000 viewers. And the key demo's down, I think. Yeah, the key demo's down, I believe. Way down. It slumped way down. No one cared about Rio and that. So people care about Jay White. People care about, Samoa Joe to an extent and shit. People care about Ospreay a little bit. What do you, like, a little bit, it's like, what do you make of these ratings? And just overall, we have to be honest here. And I've been putting over Mercedes this whole time. Get your money. I'm cheering her on. I don't have my fucking but we're gonna give them a Price is Wrong bum overall for. I mean, the shows I feel like have been better, but I think it's the bad faith in the fans and the people. They're just not willing to give this a chance anymore. Like what happened to TNA. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. Just people aren't willing to give it a chance anymore. You fucked it up, Tony. The only way you save it is merge ROH and AEW into one thing and have this big battle for who is whatever and absorb all the belts and then just get rid of ROH and absorb it and go super WWE. That's your only hope. Sorry, your thoughts, Paul Nolan, on
it's super bloated, the whole thing for me. So what has become apparent looking at these is that, and actually, like in my time watching AEW over the last 4 years, the TV matches are just too long. They're too long for TV.
They sharpened them up. They sharpened them up other than that bullshit 6-man this week, and that's where they lost so many fucking viewers. Look at it. It's like, dude, take a hint.
Yeah, because it just goes on forever. And it also devalues your pay-per-view matches because they make them less meaningful because there's this obsession with having to put pay-per-view quality matches on free television every week, and you don't have to do that. That
No, you
doesn't
do it
make
once
sense.
in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So, for me, I think it plays into that theory that there are just around about 780,000 people when you discount the lead-in from Big Bang Theory, and you basically do the math on it, that there is just the same 780,000 people who are just watching it religiously every single week. And this bump are for the, shall we say, the curious fans who want to see what happened with Mercedes, and they didn't see enough to basically stick around all the way through the show, which has just been the problem since day one, essentially. So they don't do a good enough job, and this is where like the O'Shea Jackson stuff comes into it.
Shout out
was
O'Shea.
totally right and what he was saying, about like you need to give us a reason to care. And you need to give us an understanding of who these people are if you don't know who they
Hollywood
are.
it up for me, baby. That's all
exactly,
he said.
yeah. Or you just got to tell people, you just got to tell stories, even on a very basic level, And it's one of those. I mean, yeah. And to be honest, the person who I feel the most sorry for, apart from Jay White and all of this, is Hook, because he's just been given the Jericho kiss of death. He has now got that leech. What did I call him at All In? He looked like somebody who had a fridge fall on his chest corner first. And he's just, man, he's the opposite of what a legend, an absolute stone cold legend should be. Like, he should be putting other people over, not leeching off them to try and remain relevant.
Do you think he thinks he's giving them rubs and shit? Like, do you think
he thinks he does? I think he totally does. And to be honest with you, like,
do you think he knows what he's doing? Like,
no, I don't think he's that self-aware, unfortunately.
Like, you don't think he knows, like, no, I'm just stealing their thunder. I'm stealing their thunder.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like, the impression that I got at All In last year was that Will carried Jericho through that match.
Yeah.
And actually watching the bits of the match with Hook, the tag match with Hook, obviously he's in his 50s, so he's going to have lost a step, but he's at the doorway now of missing spots and not time and stuff, and his body, like, not being able to get into the right positions and stuff. And it's kind of sad that it's where it's at right now with Jericho, because I was such a massive fan of his, like, back in the day, obviously, back into the Attitude Era and everything else, and it's just all a bit cringe. If
he signed that 10-year deal with Tony Khan. Do you think? Because why Jericho did that, just so everyone knows, it's because he's smart. It's like, if AEW goes under, Tony will owe him like 10 years of money still. Like, he worked out some weird deal like that for sure. Or it's a fake number that they made up. But apparently he signed like 10 years with AEW, and he did that after WWE wouldn't match his money, by the way. He was going to go back. What do you think? Do you think he ever goes back to WWE and like gets inducted in the Hall of Fame? Or do you think Jericho's like, no, fuck it, I'm just going to be, because I think AEW will be around forever. It'll just stick around forever, but I just don't know how big it'll ever truly get, unless it WCWs itself in like 20 or 30 years and it just flips around, like, how WCW did in the 90s. It just, Crockett, it just all turned around after like 10 years of shit, or almost 20 years of shit, or whatever. It was like, do you think, like, AEW might do that way down the line when I'm old and gray, but like, yeah, for the time being, it's like, yeah, what do you think Jericho ever goes back to WWE, or do you think he just sticks around with Tony?
Never say never. I mean, never say never in this business, right? And also, don't forget, he did do the Stone Cold podcast.
Yeah.
So there is that element of it. And I think the further that AEW just sort of slowly but surely sort of trickles down to that sort of TNA level that you were talking about, it just represents less and less of a threat to WWE. So they can afford to be magnanimous, even if Jericho is still in AEW. Yeah. One year they could just say, well, we'll put you in the Hall of Fame, or, whatever, you know what I mean? I could see that happening like years down the line, because WWE is only going to go one way now as part of the whole TKO thing. And it's just going to be that kind of thing where it's just going to be an inverse where AEW is going to can even if AEW stays where it's at now, it's still going to lose ground to WWE in terms of like how it's growing as a business, as a going concern. It's like, what, 8 straight weeks now? SmackDown has been completely sold out, not a ticket left in any of the buildings. They're doing house shows. They're doing house shows in California, bigger than what Big Business was last night.
Yeah, bigger just as big as fucking their pay-per-view for Sting was. And they were selling, and people hate on this, and I'm not saying this as a hate, but like, they were selling $1 tickets to that Sting show. Like Tony said it at the press conference, he was selling them for cheap. People found tickets like on the day of for like $1 that you could buy in there. Yeah, but he wanted to load the house for Sting, so I appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the Sting bump. Maybe people were just tuning in for Sting, and that's why their numbers were looking strong there for a few weeks. But either way, I don't know. Round of applause for AEW, I guess. They're putting in the effort. I enjoyed the show more in the vignettes and stuff. So a round of applause for it. And and a round of applause for my good friend Paul Nolan here. We'll drop him the fucking lasers. Thanks for joining me, man. This was a pleasure. It was a treat. It was too long to get you on, and we won't wait this long again. And maybe during a live show, we can toss a few back and you can come on the next one. I don't know. I'll probably do it in a couple days or something. I don't know what you'll be doing. And yeah, man, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show. And what do you got going on coming up? What do you want to plug?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm in the process of moving to Latin America. So that's kind of the main thing that's going on in my life at the moment. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to be... God, I mean, in terms of like shows and stuff, I'm just DJing a little bit less because obviously I'm moving countries at the moment. And yeah, man, I'm just going to be focusing on studio work. So not a huge amount to plug, just here for the love of wrestling and for the love of the PWT at the moment.
Oh, so hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Where is it? Let me drop a on you. That's what it is right there, man. You deserve that like nobody else. So at Paul Nolan Sound, I think on Instagram, right? I believe you're kind of mysterious on the Twitter. You're like, fuck the Twitter because it's a little toxic and stuff, eh? Yeah, I agree. That's how I get people to listen to the show, though. I just duke it out with marks on there and stuff. So it's pretty funny. I'm a mark myself, though. I am the Mark, Phil Marks. Once again with another show. PWT listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. So my plugs, I guess, Patreon, YouTube memberships, I'm revamping all of that. I mentioned it a moment ago, tune in for the live show, PWT live show. Hope you guys are doing swell in the world. Check out AEW, give it a fucking chance. If you don't normally watch it, the last 2 episodes were okay. Maybe try and give it a chance, guys. If not, I'll shut the fuck up. But yeah, Paul Nolan was here. He was great. Dummy, yeah. Phil was here. I was great too. Dummy, yeah. And at Pro Wrestle Times everywhere that you can think to find us. And yeah, I don't know, guys. Just make sure you check out the live show. I just love you so much. I don't want to let you go. But like all good things, they come to an end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for rocking with us. Top Pod out.